It has been several weeks now since we last met for some thoughts along the way. You see, during the past several weeks, my life sort of spun out of control. In fact, I had to get out my trusty journal to remember where we'd been and what we had been talking about. It helped remind me that we began with the word gratitude, and then we had to backtrack and pick up the word grace. And after those two words that we've tucked away safely into our backpack, I'm going to suggest our word for tonight is patience. That word should appear now on your screen. I confess I'm not the most patient person that you will meet. I'll be working on something, going someplace, or doing something I consider worthwhile. I prefer that rather than finding myself sitting around doing nothing while waiting on something or someone. A couple of weeks ago, I had to go to the School of Patience, and I went reluctantly. It was a horrible, horrible week. The first thing that happened was that my computer crashed. That dreaded solid blue screen, it wouldn't do anything, then it went black, and then there was nothing. I could retrieve nothing. There were actually decades of work on that computer. So I began the week very, very, very frustrated. It was also on this particular week that I had to run down to Nashville. Getting there was no problem. But on the way back in the afternoon, it took me an hour and a half just to get to Clarksville. Frustration mounting. It was also that week that I had to accompany Libby for 3 appointments for tests and doctor's visits. When the appointment was made with me for the first test, I was told it would be for 2 days. The first day, a part of the test would be done. The second day, the second part would be done. And that I needed to have Libby there by 8 o'clock in the morning. So that meant me contacting Providence Point so that they could arrange transportation on the Grits bus to get her there by 8 o'clock for our appointment. Yet surprise, surprise, when I got that little message, taped message, reminding me of our appointment, it was for 9 o'clock in the morning, not 8 o'clock. Well, it was too late for me to initiate any changes in Libby's transportation. Therefore, we had to wait. We were there at the hospital, Libby and I, by 8, and we sat there and waited for a whole hour until we could just enter the office. I did not wait patiently. I fumed a little bit, and I fretted over all the things I could have been doing if my computer hadn't crashed and I wasn't sitting there waiting to go to this appointment with Libby. Finally, we were called back for the test. The technician had come up from Nashville, and he engaged Libby with kindness, with gentleness, and with compassion. He spoke to Libby at a level that she could understand, and as I sat there with her, the impatience just seemed to leak out of me quite slowly as I observed a stranger treating Libby with such tenderness for all that she had been through. And his patience with Libby inspired from me a prayer of gratitude. Maybe sitting there, I learned a little bit about patience myself. As I mentioned, it was a 2-part test, and we had to go back for the second day Same situation. I was told the appointment was 8, the reminder said 9. So the next morning, Libby and I spent that hour together. And we had another fine and caring visit with the young technician. Everything seemed to be going smoothly. I was proud of the patience that I had acquired the day before. But then when we left the office, I had to call Grits to come and pick Libby up and take her back to Providence Point. It's a simple phone call. You say, Libby is ready. She's at Baptist. They say, we'll inform the driver he will be there soon. Well, soon turned into 1 hour and 45 minutes. Whatever patience I had acquired the day before, I lost in full that day. There were projects I needed to finish. I just saw my whole day ruined. Yes, I think you're catching on. To learn patience, our Lord puts us in the middle of those frustrating moments when we have lost control. Our third and final appointment came on Thursday afternoon. I had arranged Libby's transportation. Regretfully, she arrived about 15 minutes late. When I pushed her into the doctor's office, the receptionist immediately told us that earlier in the day, the doctor had responded to an emergency, and at that moment, he was running an hour and a half behind schedule. Well, we had waited 8 weeks for the appointment. I couldn't see rescheduling the appointment, so we decided to wait. As we sat there waiting, my phone rang. It was Ricky Letson, who used to serve us here at Emmanuel as our Minister of Education. Ricky was a colleague and he's a friend, and we had an enjoyable conversation, and the time passed by. I rarely noticed the time, and I was not frustrated because I was enjoying that conversation with Ricky as we were catching up and talking about what was going on in our worlds. So, that went smoothly. We got in to see the doctor and then back out to the lobby to call Grits. Same thing. Elizabeth Broom is finished with her appointment, ready to be taken back to Providence Point. We will inform the bus driver and he will be there shortly. I sat down, already frustrated a bit, but then, within 15 minutes, he had arrived and Libby was loaded and I was on my way. Across the years, I have resisted taking any classes in patience. You see, I think I have too much to do to waste time learning patience. But I have discovered that you only learn patience when you have lost control of a situation and have to deal with frustration and adversity. And when those down times come, if you enter into the moment and you savor it, there are all kinds of gifts hidden in those moments that you feared, in those moments that you looked at as just lost time. Some amazing gifts appear. I guess the opposite of patience is, of course, impatience. And across the years, I have noticed how impatient we can be with one another and with the circumstances that we face. You and I rarely have the patience to wait to see what might happen in a particular situation. And this impatience sometimes causes more trouble than if we had simply waited patiently. Over the years, I have become convinced that our greatest sin against ourselves and one another is impatience. We just are unable to give a situation time to work itself out. Even though we may say, this time too shall pass, we don't have the patience to let it pass. And so, with impatience, we don't have time to wait on an apology, so we discard a relationship. With impatience, we don't give our bodies the time to heal, and our bodies have the power to heal themselves, but we get up and get going, and before we know it, we have hampered our recovery because we were impatient. When some circumstance, some situation at home or at work or somewhere else spins out of our control, we want to take control back and do something, even though our impatience creates more problems and perhaps more frustration, and in the end creates more adversity for us. If we want to learn patience, you have to stop going and learn how to wait. We do need patience for the journey that we are on. For if we are impatient, we may arrive at our destination in record time. But that record means that we did not savor the journey, that we did not stop along the way to see the wonders of nature or to experience things that were along the way, nor did we take time to meet and befriend strangers we have met. Our word this week is patience. And I've selected a passage from the book of James, or the letter of James, to kind of guide our thoughts this week, and also some phrases that might help us to learn a few lessons on patience. That verse from James will now appear on your screen. Be patient, therefore, beloved, until the coming of the Lord. The farmer waits for the precious crop from the earth, being patient with it until it receives the early and the late rains. You also must be patient. So, as we attempt to follow that admonition and be patient, let us simply reflect upon these words that now appear on your screen. Lord, remind me that to teach me patience, you will have to slow me down. Lord, remind me that while learning patience, I will be frustrated because I'll be tempted to think that I'm only wasting time. Lord, remind me that the training ground for learning patience is those moments and times when I have lost control. Lord, slow me down so I will be able to savor the present moment and all of its mystery, wonder, and joy. Lord, slow me down so I can appreciate what is right under my nose. Lord, may I learn patience so that I may faithfully tend my relationship with you. Lord, could impatience be my greatest sin against myself and others? Am I too impatient to see how your grace and love are able to transform a situation? Lord, prepare me to learn patience in the school of frustration and adversity. A word of wisdom. Be patient with everyone and begin with yourself. Well, those are some thoughts for the journey. And I've packed another word in my day pack, along with gratitude and grace. Now, I'll carry patience, and perhaps you will too.